Let the record show, because I need to know how long this is running, and stop before I go way too long. Let the record show that the program began at about 3:17 p.m. 3:16 p.m. on Sunday, July 21st. 2 more days of heat. Pre-show, when we warm up the YouTube audience, begins with kittens. You may remember them from a previous pre-show, or maybe it was during a show. It is Tux there on the left. Cindy gave them different names, but this is what I call them. Tux, Stripes, Mustache or Stash. This picture doesn't show it real well, but you can, around his nose, you can see he's got a mustache. And then, these 3 are boys, and the orange cats are usually male. That one is not. That's a female orange cat. And we'll call her Franny because that's what Cindy named her. No, wait, was it? Yeah, Francine. The good news is they've all been adopted. We fostered them for about a month. Got them up from about a little over a pound each to 3 pounds. That's the point where they could be spayed and neutered, and sent them up to Safe Haven for cats. And they were put up for adoption, and they've all been adopted. 2 of them went together. I'm not sure I remember which 2. I think it was, it was Stash and Tux. I think they went together. It would have been nice if all 4 could have gone together, because they loved each other and they played like crazy. But 2 of them did, and then Stripes and Francine were adopted individually. But at least they were all adopted. So, yay. We're still in the pre-show. The real show hasn't started yet. Let's see. I wanted to say something about subscribing. Last time I did a discussion about subscribing to the show. I wanted to show the subscribe button, and it wasn't there because I was looking at YouTube on my owner's console, and an owner can't subscribe to their own show. So here it is. This is in a, what do they call it? A incognito window. So it doesn't know who I am. So the subscribe button shows up. So you push that. And somewhere around there, if you do that, I guess you get a bell. I can't subscribe from incognito because it wants me to sign in. Can't sign in from incognito. Well, I guess I could, but I'm not going to take the time. You get a bell, and you push the bell, and you'd get a reminder, I guess, on your phone somewhere. They show up on my phone. The couple of YouTube shows that I've subscribed to and then click the bell, they show up on my phone and tell me that a show is starting. Because as I mentioned, it's important to know when this show starts because it's not a regular scheduled show. It doesn't even happen every week at this point. So you get a notice on your phone that the show is going to start. And no matter what you're doing, drop everything, rush to your nearest device that will play YouTube, and start watching for hours, for hours and hours. Still coughing. Yeah, that's going to go on forever. I'm working on that with a ear, nose, and throat doctor. Appears to be reflux related, but we haven't fixed it yet. Changed a few things, didn't help. Still working on it. Okay, I think it's time for the official show to begin. Give it a pause so I can edit the audio here. I had something clever to say before I started the music for the show, and I can't remember what it was, so we'll just do the music. From the studio in the bonus room above the garage on the north side of Cary at the foot of Mount Belzoni, this is the Triangle Talk Show. And it is episode 64, Sunday, July 21st, 2019. A citizenship test. This is a civics type episode. Citizenship test. I'm Gary Pierce. I am I've got to push this button here. I'm Gary Pierce. I am a citizen in this episode. I'm a citizen of the United States of America. Watch. Citizen. Watch. I guess if you subscribe to high-end magazines, and I don't know why I know this, because I don't, you see the ads. Citizen watch, expensive watch. Yeah, whatever. The Trump administration has announced changes to the test that immigrants will take to become citizens. I don't know what it's going to be yet. Won't know till later. The Washington Post put together a test based on the real questions that immigrants answer when they take the test. So that's coming up later in the show. Stay tuned. Sorry, Preet. The Triangle Talk Show is a podcast. It is also a YouTube show. It's for the Triangle area of North Carolina. We cover anything we want to. Fair amount of progressive politics. This isn't really a political show, despite the citizenship test thing. Not a very political show this time. Our website is triangletalkshow.com. I've got a Facebook group. It's also named the Triangle Talk Show. On Twitter, we are at Talk Triangle. You know that little at sign, Talk Triangle. And and we're on YouTube. Ashamed to admit, continue to be. We haven't hit the 100 subscriber mark. When we get to 100 subscribers, I believe the way it works is that I can ask them for a custom URL and specify that it would be youtube.com/Triangle Talk Show, as opposed to the gobbledygook gibberish that it is right now. I think that's the way it worked. I've got a bunch of other YouTube sites, and I've been able to name them all, and some of them long before you needed 100 subscribers. So that got instituted at some point. Some of them don't have very many subscribers at all, personal sites. And that 100 subscriber thing appeared sometime before we started this show. So we picked up one more subscriber. We're at 51 after I begged for people to subscribe on the last show. We're at 51. We went from 50 to 51. So yay. Okay, let me get myself set for the next thing. Next big thing on the show. Do I know what that's going to be? Oh, yeah, I guess I do. Okay. So, where was I? Oh, so please subscribe. The Triangle Talk Show is also really just a vanity project for me. Gary Pierce, citizen. Watch. By that, I mean with 51 people on YouTube and maybe 30 to 50 people downloading episodes on audio as an audio podcast, and the typical YouTube watch statistics show another 30 to 50. Clearly just a vanity project. I think I'm good. I think I'm entertaining. Apparently not entertaining, so entertaining that everyone who has watched the show has rushed out to tell everybody they know that they really need to be listening to or watching the show, because the guy is awesome. So I'm a legend in my own mind. And that's okay. That's what most podcasts are about. Only a few do better. On with the show. In the Washington Post, I'll talk about the citizenship test later. In the Washington Post, there was a thing that I saw, this little test, sort of a fitness test, and apparently it's also going to do something about measuring your longevity. If you can sit down and stand up without using your hands, then apparently you've got some potential for longevity. So I can do that. Oh, wait, I was using my hands. Yeah, I'm wearing shorts. For the audio audience, I just cheated. I was sitting in a chair. I was doing that sitting in a chair. That doesn't count. It's on the floor. You go all the way down to the floor and then stand up without using your hands. And I tried it the other day, and I succeeded. I was not graceful, not like this lady that's on the Washington Post video. She's doing good. I was kind of wobbling all over the place, but I was expecting that I wouldn't be able to do it at all. I was expecting that it would be a total failure. I'm 69 years old, almost 70 in October. I'm fairly fit. I do work out every day. A little overweight, but I really expected I would have no chance at all. And so the sitting down part, that wasn't too hard. The getting back up part is, it turns out, more a matter of balance than of strength. There's a strength component. If you're, totally no leg strength, no core strength, you're not going to be able to do it. But it was more balance. And so I succeeded. Again, I was not very graceful. I was grateful, but not graceful. So I tried it again later to show off for my wife, Cindy. And I got down fine. That was 10% impressive. The Washington Post says that you get a score of 10 points. 5 points if you were able to get down, 5 points for getting up. Getting up to me was a whole lot more work, a whole lot more difficult. I think it should be like 3 points for getting down, 7 points for getting up. But they do it 5 and 5. So I, showing off to my wife, got down 5 points and went to get back up and fell and busted my ass. Just, totally unstable. Because I hadn't practiced. I did it that one time, and I figured, no, if I did it one time, I can do it again. So I tried it again immediately before things started to hurt too much. And I succeeded, and I impressed her. She can do it. The lesson I learned is be careful. There's a lot more in this article on the Washington Post about this thing. I'll put a link on the Triangle Talk Show website if you want to look at everything in the article. I guess it doesn't exactly say that they agree that it will increase your longevity or certify the potential for longevity if you can do it. But they got some research studies and things like that. So, let's see. Check that out if you want to learn more. And again, if you want to try it, be careful. Have some stuff around you, something soft to land on if that doesn't work very well. Next, again, not going to be a very political episode, but I've been following that gerrymandering thing. The Supreme Court last month came to a decision that they couldn't come to a decision on gerrymandering for political purposes. North Carolina had sued. I think it was Maryland. There were lawsuits in both of those states. They reached the Supreme Court. The cases got combined. The cases were basically complaining that legislatures had deliberately gerrymandered districts for political purposes. Now, gerrymandering for racial purposes has been illegal for some time. The Supreme Court has ruled on that, and they have thrown out maps that they said were racially gerrymandered. But for pure political purposes, to draw the maps so that more legislators will be elected. Now, this is either for the U.S. Congress or for state legislatures. So more legislators in one party will be elected in greater numbers than the raw vote total for the whole state would indicate should be the case. You draw those district lines. I explained this gerrymandering thing in a previous episode. Go back and watch. I don't want to do it all again. It took a while. If you do it just for political purposes, then the Supreme Court said, we're not going to get involved. We don't like it. We don't think it's a great idea. We don't think it's very American. They didn't say that. It was a 5-4 decision. So that, the 4 more liberal justices thought, I'm trying to remember. I think the decision was split up a little bit awkwardly. Not exactly the way you'd expect it to be, but I may be remembering that wrong. In any case, they said, we don't think that the court should get in the middle of that. And to some extent, they're probably right, because then there would be court cases where the courts would be deciding gerrymandering a lot, and the Supreme Court didn't want to be in the middle of all of those. So they decided not to be in the middle of any of them, including Maryland, which was a single district that was gerrymandered to be Democratic, and North Carolina, which was all of the 13 districts. These are the U.S. congressional districts that were gerrymandered to be Republican. So the Supreme Court said the states figure that out. So we have been having a trial here in North Carolina. It has been brought by Common Cause, and it's still partisan gerrymandering, but the Supreme Court didn't say you couldn't bring suit in a state court. They just said they weren't going to do it at the federal level. They wanted the states to handle this. I got the impression they wanted the states to handle it legislatively, which is never going to happen here. But they didn't say you couldn't do it in a state court. And so, the case that the Supreme Court was deciding was for U.S. elections, for U.S. House of Representatives. The case that the Common Cause is pursuing in state court is for gerrymandering of the districts for state Senate and state House. So the state lines. So they've been running that trial for the past week. It's still going on. And there's video of it on WRAL. Not on the TV station. They're streaming it live on their website. And I've been watching a little bit of it. I wish I could watch more of it. Let me show you a little bit of it. It was actually kind of hard to find. But I finally did a search on WRAL just for the word gerrymandering. And some of these results are the trial. Where we're looking at day 5 trial examining NC legislative, and it's going to be districts. So there's day 5, day 4. Day 4 is in 2 parts. And then day 3, which is also in 2 parts. And then day 2 and day 1. Those are mixed in with other search results, but not too hard to find. If you've watched court shows on TV, we love court shows, don't we? And I'm all the way back to LA Law, and probably before that, but that's maybe the first one I can pull out of my memory. And currently, Cindy and I are watching a show that has already gone off the air, but we're going through it because we never watched it first run. Boston Legal. We've been watching the Good Wife and the Good Fight, which are current shows, and then we finished those. The Good Fight is a current show on CBS All Access, and they've finished their season. There's going to be another season of that. The Good Wife is done. So looking for other shows, found Boston Legal, and we're really enjoying that. It's got Captain Kirk on it. And it's got Odo, if you know who Odo is from Deep Space Nine. It's a Star Trek show. Well, not really, but it's got those people on it. I can't pronounce Odo's Rene Auberjonois, something like that. I can't pronounce his name. And Captain Kirk. Okay, what's his name? Don't get old. Brain is going bad. If you watch the court shows on TV, things are exciting and dynamic, and they happen fast. If you've ever been in a real court, things are not exciting. Not usually. Sometimes they are. They're generally not real dynamic, and they definitely don't happen fast. So I got to watch one day of this. I think a bit of day 2 of the trial, and
if we could pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 9, which is
yes, I'm still
Figure
watching.
2 from Dr. Chen's report.
So one of the things I was going to complain about
axis going from left to right
was that they do a lot of charts and stuff on this, and they don't show very many of them on video. So, of course, the section that I've randomly pulled up here, they do show it on video. It's not a very well-produced program. It's a single camera. The audio isn't always real good. And again, it goes slowly, but you can't step through it. You can fast forward through stuff if you want to look for more exciting stuff.
What does the red dashed line on the left side show?
That red dashed line, that's the current enacted House plan. And we can see that the current enacted House plan is right at 42. So once again, the current enacted House plan creates 42 Democratic districts using this exact same.
So the guy talking is a University of Michigan professor, and I'm going to mess up his first name, Jowei, Jowei, and his last name is Chen. He's an expert witness for the plaintiff for Common Cause, and he is going through over the course of several days a very detailed step-by-step of how he created models that, he says, demonstrated how the maps for the North Carolina House and Senate districts were gerrymandered. The vote totals in the 2018 election, the statewide vote totals were actually a little more than 50% Democratic. But we don't elect state representatives and senators statewide. We do it by districts, and districts are susceptible to gerrymandering. As explained in a previous program, go watch that, called gerrymandering. So while Republicans lost their supermajorities in those races, they still won comfortable majorities in the House, the North Carolina House, and the North Carolina Senate. So they still have a comfortable majority in both houses. They just don't have a supermajority, which means they have enough votes to override any veto, assuming they can keep their caucus together on an issue, don't have any defections. And the Democrats also keep their caucus together and don't have any defections. The Democrats can now prevent the Republicans from overriding a veto. So we got Republican legislature, Democratic Governor Cooper, once in a while will veto a bill, and for the first 2 years of his term, it was fairly hopeless. If he vetoed a bill and the Republicans really wanted it, they would just override the veto. Now they can't. So we did an episode about something like that for the late-term abortion bill. That was one fairly dramatic where the Democrats held their caucus together enough to prevent the Republicans from overriding Cooper's veto. So it happens. So I watched half of one day of that and then got too busy to watch more of them. I was just getting to the cross-examination, which got harder to follow. The step-by-step of how he put his maps together, not too hard to follow. And they were, what they were doing was really trying to emphasize that, yes, these maps are definitely gerrymandered. There's no question about it. Let's show you 6 ways from Sunday how they have been gerrymandered. And with all kinds of details and charts, circles and arrows on each one. What is that? Alice's Restaurant. An Alice's Restaurant reference. Hope you're old enough. And you could follow it. I could follow it anyway. It got boring because it was repetitive, but was able to follow it. Then they got to the cross exam, and that got boring because it was hard to follow. And I haven't watched very much of it. I'll go back to watch more of that if I can. The trial is still going on. We haven't seen a result yet. Still working my way toward the question on the citizenship test. We're not there. We're not there yet. Last week was the 50th anniversary of the moon landing back in 1969. That was awesome, of course. The week has been awesome, just reliving all of that stuff. It's one of those things that everybody says that if they were old enough, that they remember where they were when that happened. They remember watching it on TV. I don't remember. I know where I must have been. I was 19, plenty old enough to remember. I know where I lived. I'm sure that I watched it with my family. But I don't remember the event at all. I mean, I've seen lots of replays of it, so I know what happened, but I don't remember watching it the first time. It was July 20th, 1969. It was at 2017 UTC. Oh, great. That was a Sunday. I was in a Chicago suburb, so daylight savings time. I know I'm saying it wrong. Daylight savings time. I'm saying it on purpose because I'm opposed to daylight. It is daylight saving time. Anyone pedantic about it will make sure that they correct you if you say daylight savings time. But I'm saying it wrong on purpose because it's a protest. I want us to go on full time, all the time, daylight savings time. Get rid of the standard time. Move an hour ahead, stay there. There are some reasons not to. The overriding reasons are to do it. Daylight savings time, at that point, the Chicago area, Central Time Zone, 5 hours ahead of UTC. So at 2017 UTC, 1517 Central, working that out in my head, that is 3:17 p.m. in human time. And by the way, at lunch this afternoon, Cindy told me that the Apollo 11 astronauts had to go through customs in Hawaii on their way back. They declared moon rocks, moon dust, and other lunar samples. Thought that was cool. Also, something we hadn't heard about. Okay, so I don't remember the experience at all. I have seen replays. I've seen replays so many times that maybe they obscure my original memory of being there watching this. But I don't remember the family sitting around the TV. I don't remember the tension of wondering if they're going to be successful or not. I mean, I felt that tension even on the replays, the many, many, many replays that we've seen in the movies and stuff. You still feel the tension, even though you know what the result is going to be, even though you know that the landing is going to be successful and that their takeoff is also going to be successful, because if that engine didn't fire, they were going to sit there until they ran out of air. That wouldn't have been that long. Tension was still there. But I don't remember it. Don't remember it first run. That's not surprising. And I've known this about myself. My memory pretty much sucks. It is mostly in snapshots. And I thought I was sort of unique in that situation that happened to me. But I've talked to at least one other person who described that before I had described my memory to them. That they have memories of their history in little snapshots, not much in narrative incidents, not something where you can roll back the videotape. There's a lot missing. I have no memory of any conversation with my parents. No, especially vivid, but not even, sort of a distant memory of maybe more than one. I've got one sort of memory of a conversation with my mom just before she died. And I had it on video, so I'm maybe we're just remembering it from video. I think that's weird. And lots of people have lots of memories like that. It's gone. Don't know why. So I got curious about other things that everyone remembers The moon landing, something that if you were more than about 7 or 8, for some people 5 or 6, back in 1969, everybody remembers where they were, what they were doing, what the situation was. So I found this website, My Heritage Blog, and what they're calling it is Flashbulb Memories, 10 historic events that everyone remembers who was old enough. So I'll put this on the website. And I don't think this is in any particular order. It's not in chronological order, and I don't think it's in order of how many people remember in theory. But I thought I would go through it because I was curious. There are a couple things I do remember of those things everybody remembers. So I wanted to go to the website and see what things that I wasn't remembering to remember. I wasn't remembering to remember these things. I wanted to see what there was out there and see whether I was remembering them or not. So let's take a look at these 10 items that they've pulled up. The first one of these flashbulb memories is the moon landing. And this is another one of those things that that they see everybody remembers. The assassination of Martin Luther King, which was April 4th, 1968. So once again, I'd be 18 years old that year. And I don't remember that. I remember that it happened. I don't remember how I became aware of it. They would spend a lot of time on TV about it, and I don't remember any first run thoughts of what was going on as it was happening. Now, as it so happens for me, in 1968, I was under the enthrall of some very conservative people politically. I was not politically astute at 18 in 1968. 1968, lived in the Chicago area. That was the summer of the Democratic National Convention and the riots that were in downtown Chicago. And I was not the liberal that I am now. I was a politically unastute, naive conservative, I guess. Did not have a strong, high opinion of Martin Luther King. I remember thinking in high school. I remember this thought. I don't have much context for it. I don't know if I was saying it to someone, if I wrote it down. I remember that this was in my mind, a very Trumpian thought. There are some good black people. There are some. That was in my mind, 1968. So the assassination of Martin Luther King would have been sort of I probably don't, I don't approve of assassinating people, but I didn't have a high opinion of Dr. King at that time. My opinion has changed. The assassination of John F. Kennedy. Okay, this is maybe the first one. Yeah, here's where they're saying people over age 8 at the time. 95% of Americans over the age of 8 remember where they were when they heard that Kennedy had been assassinated. And I do remember that. I don't remember it well, but I have a little bit more than a snapshot memory. It was on a Friday, the Friday before Thanksgiving. It was early afternoon. I think he was assassinated in Central Time about 12:30 or so. And the word didn't get out immediately, but within a couple of hours it did. And I was in junior high school, and what I remember is being in the school. My memory is not reliable here because I was, what I'm remembering is sort of wandering through a hallway by myself. That would be an odd thing to be doing in junior high school. Usually going to be in class. If you're going through the hallways, it's between classes and you're going to be with a lot of other people. For some reason, I seem to remember being in a hallway by myself and then noticing a TV set running, which was odd because there were very few TVs around junior high school. That was probably tuned to CBS and, listening to the description of what was going on in Dallas at the time. Again, not a reliable memory, but more of a memory than I have of most things. So if you were around back then, what do you remember? The sinking of the Titanic. Well, that was 1912. No, I wasn't around to remember that. The assassination of Archduke Ferdinand that started World War I. Wasn't there. The end of World War I. Nope, not there. Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941. Not alive yet, born in 1949. The fall of the Berlin Wall. It was November 9th, 1989. That's another one that I do not have any vivid memory of. I sort of remember it happening. I've been to Berlin. I've seen the wall, pieces of it that are still left. And again, there are so many replays of video of things like that happening that's what I remember. I don't remember where I was. 1989, I would have been living in November 9th, 89. I would have been in Tennessee. Would have been in Knoxville. Spent a few months there before moving to North Carolina. I don't remember. I may have not have even been tuned in when that was happening. I may have caught it later on in the day, watching the news or whatever, but no vivid memory of that. Let's see, the 9/11 terrorist attack on the World Trade Center, and that is probably the one that I have the most vivid memory of, and it's also the most recent one. What I remember, I was down in Charlotte. I was visiting my in-laws, and I had gotten up earlier than everybody else and logged on to America Online. And there's a little history nugget for me and you. My email at the time was coming through AOL. I've got an AOL address still. I never look at it. It's full of spam, but I still have it. And I logged on to AOL. I was going to go check my email, and they have some headlines and stuff that were on and caught my eye. And I don't remember if AOL had video. If it did back then, it was postage stamp video. I may have been seeing something like that, but it probably drove me to a TV set immediately and started watching what was going on. So that is one of my more lucid and vivid memories, and it's still a short one, a couple of minutes worth. I remember the drive back from Charlotte to Raleigh, and observing there's no planes in the sky. I've been a few places recently. I would look up in the sky. Look up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. And there's no contrails. There's no aircraft up there. I think the last time we were doing that, we were up in the mountains outside of Boulder, where we had a pretty good view of a pretty wide sky and out toward the Denver airport and not seeing anything in the sky. Thought that was weird. But it wasn't because we were being attacked, but the drive back from Charlotte to Raleigh and no planes in the sky. A friend of mine was on a flight from Raleigh to, could have been all the way to the West Coast. They diverted to St. Louis and landed there. And after a while, it became obvious there were going to be no flights to get him back. So he managed to rent a car. He's got a good story to tell about that. The royal weddings, I don't care about that stuff. I'm not surprised that I don't remember them at all. So that's the 10 memories from this My Heritage blog of 10 historic events that everyone remembers. Well, some of them are so old, there aren't going to be very many people, if anybody, alive that was old enough to remember them. But many of them I still don't. So, is that interesting? I don't know. Okay, time for the citizenship test. The Trump administration has announced that it's going to make some changes to the citizenship test that immigrants need to pass to become citizens. This, of course, comes in the wake of Trump's racist tweets about the squad and our fellow North Carolinians chanting, what was it, send her back at the rally in Greenville. Don't get distracted here. We could go into that in great detail, but everybody has gone into that in great detail. Okay, maybe a little. I remember when I early on moved to North Carolina, I saw a bumper sticker that said, I'm from North Carolina, and I didn't vote for Jesse Helms. And I went, yay. All right. Okay, only one member of the squad, that's Ilhan Omar, is an actual immigrant, so she passed the test. And Washington Post, the WAPO, as some people call them, they ran an article about the test fairly recently, a couple days ago. Again, there's no details on what's going to change. The last time the test was revised was just in 2008, so 11 years ago. It gets changed now and then. Some of it is based on historical events, and we keep accumulating them, so it's going to change now and then. The United States Customs and Immigration Service Director is Ken Cuccinelli. Washington Post describes him as an immigration hardliner, but in talking about the test, he is just saying it's just going to look like another version of a civics exam. Nothing to see here. Let's not get all excited about this. Yes, immigration has got us all whipped up into a frenzy in whichever poll you're sitting on. Don't worry about it. Well, Ken Cuccinelli, Trump administration appointee, we're worried about it. We'll see what happens. Maybe later this year is when we're going to get a chance to see it. But what was most interesting to me was in this article, they had some sort of examples. The test questions are public domain. You can go find out what they are. They're available. So I thought I would try taking the test. And now they got a couple different runs at it. And it's mostly multiple choice. Maybe it's all multiple choice. I did this one already. And I think this one is going to come up the same as the one that I took. So 10 questions. Let's go through them, see how we do, and then maybe we'll take one or two more that I haven't seen. And I know of these 10 questions, I got 2 wrong, so we'll see. Question number 1: name one state that borders Mexico. One state that borders Mexico, and the options are Florida, Louisiana, Nevada, and Arizona. And I knew that one. It was Arizona. And the states that border Mexico are, in addition to Arizona, California, New Mexico, and Texas. No, Florida does not border Mexico. It's across the Gulf, but no, it doesn't touch. Neither does Louisiana, and Nevada doesn't touch the border either. So I got that one right. What's the highest court in the United States? The 4 choices are the United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit. We hear about them in the news a lot. The United States District Court for the District of Columbia. That, being District of Columbia, that might, that's Washington, that might fool some people. The Court of Appeals for the Armed Forces. Don't even know what that is. And the Supreme Court, which of course is the correct answer. 99% of people chose that one. They've had about 36,000 responses to this survey online. 211. They're not telling you how many responses that came out of actual tests of actual immigrants. This is just their online answers. 36,000 responses. 211 people chose wrong. Of course, people could just make a choice because they want to be a jerk. Who knows? What is an amendment? The options are a change to the U.S. Constitution, when control of the White House changes parties. I've heard I've heard that referred to, and I think it was on the newsroom. Will McAvoy on the newsroom, he said, our elections are a bloodless coup. We changed the leadership of the United States, and not a shot was fired. We do that all the time. Okay, so what is an amendment? A change to the Constitution when control of the White House changes parties, when Congress passes a new law, or a correction to be published to a published news article. I'm going to go with number 4 as a possible amendment. But no, it's going to be a change to the U.S. Constitution. It's another one that I got right. In addition to the Constitution would also be a correct answer. These are presented to me here as multiple choice. I think that they're multiple choice. I get the impression that they are in the actual test. But this answer leads me to believe that maybe not, or maybe there's possible multiple different answers depending on which version of the test you get. Only 97% got this one right. So a few more people didn't. Here's one I got wrong. Name one of the 2 longest rivers in the United States. Name one of the 2 longest rivers in the United States. Everybody is going to say the Mississippi. And the Mississippi is not one of the 4 possible answers. The 4 answers that you can choose from are the Ohio, the Colorado, the Rio Grande, and the Missouri. And I certainly didn't know that out of general knowledge, just out of the top of my head. So I'm thinking, I used to live right on the Colorado River for a couple of years in Arizona. I know it's a long river, goes all the way through Arizona. I'm not sure where the headwaters are. Maybe east of there. Well, it can't be much east. It's got to be in the Rockies, west of the Continental Divide. I know the Rio Grande is kind of long. It's got all that Texas territory to go through. I know the Ohio is kind of long, certainly big, catches fire once in a while. And the Missouri, not a river I'm very familiar with. So I threw that answer out right away. And more of a guess, chose the Colorado River. Not right. Thank you for playing the game. The correct answer is the Missouri. The Mississippi and the Missouri are correct answers. And I don't feel too bad. This proved to be one of the toughest questions on the quiz. Of the first 36,000 responses, 56% got this wrong. So I was in that majority. 33%, like me, chose the Colorado River. And here's the thing that blows me away. The Missouri River is the longest river in the United States. The Mississippi is second. I didn't prep for this. Let me get to Google Maps. And we'll take a look. I guess I need to do a search. Come back, Google Maps. Come back to me. Missouri River. Let's go take a look. Clearly, it's bigger than just the state of Missouri. It's showing me something in South Dakota. I guess I don't quite understand why that would be. Let's find out. Okay, well, there's the Missouri River. Way back up into South Dakota, up into North Dakota. Looks like the headwaters are going to be someplace up in North Dakota. Yeah, it's still being called the Missouri River. Is it where it gets real tiny? Yep, up in Bismarck, it's gotten a bunch smaller. Okay, still the Missouri River, and we have we've hit a lake. No, well, it must be dammed. Missouri River's still North Dakota. Can't see the state boundaries. Montana, it's getting pretty small. Yeah, still Missouri River as we go into Montana. Some rivers will do things like that, and they'll get different names at different spots. Still in Missouri. Can't tell what state we're in. We crossed into Washington State yet? No, we're still in Montana. A couple spots where it has clearly been dammed because it gets real wide. Oh, there's a park, the Upper Missouri River Breaks National Park. Knew nothing about this. This is pretty exciting, isn't it? Especially for the audio audience. Great Falls, Montana, still the Missouri. Come on, show me a name. Yep, still the Missouri. Great Falls, Montana goes squiggling out back down south. Still the Missouri. I can't tell what state we're in here. Tiny towns. Let me back out to look and see what state. Now, in western Montana still. Still named the Missouri. We're heading south. Going through Montana. I hesitate to get too big because I kind of lose the river. We're still in Missouri. No, the name has changed to the Madison River. Let me see where I lost the Missouri. Madison River. Jefferson River. Okay, so Madison, Jefferson come together. And, okay, there we go. Source of the Missouri River. And that is a little bit northwest of Bozeman, Montana. And then it finishes up, I believe I'm going to be correct in that it finishes up as it dumps into the Mississippi at St. Louis. Now, have I got that right? Well, that's the Mississippi. Yeah, there's the Missouri. And we're just north of St. Louis, and it dumps into the Mississippi. Okay, so, yeah. Longest river in the country, and longest episode of the Triangle Talk Show. Get back to our quiz. How old do citizens have to be to vote for president? 21, 18, 16 and a half, or 24? Well, when I first voted for president, it was 21. But when I was in college, we were lobbying to make it 18. 18 is now correct. Somewhere in the early 70s, that was changed. Who did the United States fight in World War II? Soviet Union, Russia, China, Poland, or Germany? World War II. Pretty sure it was Germany. That is correct. The Customs and Immigration Service accepts Japan, Germany, and Italy as the correct answers. 98% of people got that one. 2% chose Russia. We elect a U.S. Senator for how many years? 4, 6, 2, or 8? So president is 4. Governor in North Carolina is 4. Could be different in other states. House of Representatives is 2. Can't think of anybody that is 8. And Senator is 6. And 81% of the people got that correct. 14% answered 4. It's an odd number. I think U.S. Senator is the only thing, at least in North Carolina and Illinois, where I grew up, only office where you vote, where the elected office runs for 6 years, and then it's staggered. So every 2 years you elect a senator, except that there's a off year every 4 years. So it's 2 year vote, and then the 6 year terms are are overlapping a bit, so there's no vote the next 2 years, and then start over again. So there was no Senate election in 2018. Nobody was running for Senate in North Carolina. Other states were, but not North Carolina. And then in 2020, Tillis will be up for election. And then 2022, Burr will be up for election, would be, but he's announced that he's not going to run again. We'll see if he sticks with that. Who lived in America before the Europeans arrived? Native Americans, Aboriginals, Incans, or the colonists? Well, the colonists were the Americans who arrived from Europe. Aboriginals are Australia. Incans are South America. And so Native Americans. And they would have accepted American Indians as a correct answer. 99% got that. Good job, Americans. No, good job, immigrants. No, good job, people watching the web. I don't know who you are. How many amendments does the Constitution have? 26, 27, 28, or 10? So you know where this 10 is. It said in the article that they didn't try any gotcha questions. They didn't try any trick questions. But this may come as close to a trick question as I've seen. 10 is the Bill of Rights. The first 10 amendments are the Bill of Rights. People are going to think about that. So the next answers are clustered together, 26, 27, 28. I knew that the Equal Rights Amendment had not been passed yet. And I was thinking, yeah, that might be aiming for 28. But maybe the reason the 28 is sticking in my mind is because there are 28 amendments. That's the one I chose. That's the other one I got wrong. It's 27. So if the ERA goes through before anything else does, it'll be the 28th. This was the most difficult question on the quiz. 61% of the first 35,000 responses chose the wrong answer. 31% chose 26. 25% chose 28. Apparently, did anybody? Let me do the math in my head. 61, 91. I'm having trouble doing the math in my head. 61% got it wrong. So 31% said 26, 25% said 28. So that's must leave a bunch of people that said 10. But don't do math in your head, Gary. If both the president and the vice president can no longer serve, in other words, something happened to them during the course of their term, not just because they don't want to run again, not because they've term limited. Something happens in the course of their time in office, and they get sick, they get killed. Something happens. Then who takes over to become president? The president of the Senate, the Secretary of Defense, the Speaker of the House, or the Secretary of State? And that's been in episodes of a couple shows that I watch that deal with being president or whatever. West Wing had an episode of that. The president was going to be incapacitated in some reason, and I forget what the specific episode was. Cindy and I are watching that one again too. We've watched it maybe 3 times so far. Again, a bad memory is a terrific thing because you can watch old movies and shows again and enjoy them first run. You don't remember what happened. There was no vice president in that episode, so the next person in line would take it, and I remember who it was the Speaker of the House. And then a fairly recent episode of Madam Secretary had that plot line. And she was Secretary of State, and I think Secretary of State is in line, but it's not third, maybe fourth or fifth. I forget, but she was getting close to. She was going to have to be president, but at least in that episode, it didn't happen. I think they're working their way that way because the current season ended with her planning to be running for president. Looking forward to the next season. It's a good show. Not quite West Wing. As close to West Wing as they're currently coming. So it's the Speaker of the House, and I got that one right. So this was my score, 8 out of 10. I passed. Yay. So our hour is up. Do you want to take one more? One that round 2? Let's go through this pretty quick. This is one I have not seen. What do we call the first 10 amendments to the Constitution? The 10 Commandments, the Bill of Rights, a Bill of Attainder, the Federalist Papers. The Federalist Papers are something that I've only somewhat become familiar with because it's the writings of the folks that came up with the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. We often talk about original intent and how we revere the Founding Fathers. Conservatives particularly, they just wrap themselves in the Constitution and the Founding Fathers. You want to go find out what they were thinking to themselves, it's in the Federalist Papers. But the first 10 amendments are the Bill of Rights. House of Representatives has how many voting members? Oh, this is, okay. Let's see. There's this media group called 538.com, and they come up with their name because it's the combination of the House of Representatives and the Senate. So there's 100 senators, so that takes us down to 438. But there are a couple of members of the House that are not voting members, and I think that's 2. So that would be 536. It's going to be 535. Oh, wait. Yeah. No, it's going to be 435. Yeah, because the 500 includes the senators on that show. So 435. That's how I had to deduce that, and not something that I knew of just by being smart. Who's the Chief Justice right now? Okay, this is part of the reason why this thing changes. Because the Chief Justice will keep changing. So Clarence Thomas, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Antonin Scalia, and John Roberts. And it's John Roberts. I've just been paying attention to the news. I know that. What do we show loyalty to when we say the Pledge of Allegiance? Oh. This is going to trigger a rant. God, the flag, the president, or liberty and justice. I'm one of those people that does not say the Pledge of Allegiance because I consider that to be a totalitarian meme, a totalitarian thing. You do it in countries where you try to get the population to all be rah, rah, rah for our side, for our country. It has all of those echoes to me. I used to, I didn't used to think that way, but I do think that way now. So here's the good question. I pledge allegiance. Well, the words are I pledge allegiance to the flag, so I'm going to go with that. And that is correct. The United States would be a correct answer. By the way, I do not pledge allegiance to the United States. I'm glad to live here. If I had been drafted, I would have gone into the Army. I'd pay my taxes. Do not pledge allegiance. Who wrote the Declaration of Independence? Well, it wasn't George Washington, James Madison, Samuel Adams, or Thomas Jefferson. I think it was Samuel Adams. No, it was Thomas Jefferson. Okay, so I got one wrong here. You can get 4 wrong and still become a citizen. When was the Constitution written? 1776, 1777, 1786, or 1787? Well, the Declaration of Independence and the war was 1776. I think it took them a while to get around to the Constitution. I'm going to go with 1786, but this is a guess between that and 87. And I'm wrong again. It was 87. I'm fortunate in that they are not going to kick me out of the country for getting these wrong on the Washington Post test. I was born here. I could be dumb as a stump, and I still get to be I still get to be a citizen. But if they kick me out, me and Ilhan Omar will go back to Somalia. What territory did the United States buy from France in 1803? These are history questions. Florida, Alaska, Acadia. Don't know what that is. Or Louisiana. I'm pretty sure that my vague memory of history gets us to the Louisiana Purchase. And it's getting dicey here. I'm starting to sweat. Name one war fought by the United States in the 1800s. The Revolutionary War, the Crimean War, World War I, or the Spanish-American War. Well, Revolutionary War was in the 1700s. Crimean War, did we even fight in that? I think so. World War I was in the 1900s. That leaves the Spanish-American War. Could have also been the War of 1812, the Mexican-American War, the Civil War, and the Spanish-American War. What did the Emancipation Proclamation do? This is question number 9. It gave women the right to vote. It freed the slaves. It abolished slavery. It ended the Civil War. Okay, well, it didn't give women the right to vote. It didn't end the Civil War. It freed the slaves and it abolished slavery. Well, Emancipation Proclamation seems to me like it would have done both, but just going by the words, I'm going to say freed the slaves. And, but I would go with abolished slavery or freed the slaves. Let's see what they say. Well, okay, I got that right. My clever process of deduction. And they've got no text below it, no explanation. I can't learn any more right now. Name one U.S. territory. This is our final question. Grenada or Grenada, Bermuda, the North Mariana Islands, or Hawaii. Well, when I was born, Hawaii was a territory. Bermuda and Grenada or Grenada are not part of the United States. The North Mariana Islands are, I think, a extended part of the wider Hawaiian island chain, and that makes them a U.S. territory. Could have been Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands, American Samoa, North Mariana Islands, or Guam. That's who we've got. Once again, I missed 2. I passed. I can stay in the United States. Ilhan Omar also passed because she became a citizen, and then she became a congresswoman. And Trump doesn't like that. She thinks she's an enemy of the American people who happens to be a member of Congress. Well, we have not been happy with some members of Congress in the past. Probably considered them to be enemies of the American people, I think. McCarthy, Joseph McCarthy. Let's see. Now, that's it. Apparently just those 2. Looking through the rest of their website. I'll put a link to this up so you can, although the questions don't change, at least my run through of the first 10 indicated that they don't change. So it's not a generated test. But there's a lot more in the article. So you might be interested. Okay, so we're past an hour. I guess I will wrap this up. I had one more. Okay, I got one more cute thing. This won't take long. There's something that I have noticed being a newspaper reader for long time, almost lifelong newspaper reader. Newspapers are going away. There is no saving them. There would be saving the companies that publish them right now. I don't know how many more years we have for print editions of the newspaper. The companies that will survive turn themselves into other kinds of media. I subscribe to the Washington Post, but I don't get the paper. I get it online. I subscribe to the News and Observer, and I re-upped again fairly recently. And I don't get the paper. I read them online. The Washington Post, I just read their website. The News and Observer, I actually get myself a PDF version of what the newspaper looks like. But I also get a lot of stuff on their website. But I happen to love the comics. I will slog my way through the paper. No way do I have time to read all the stories that are in the paper. There's no way. And absorb them in any depth. I get as much as I can. But the comics I always get to because they are just a little dessert for having worked my way through it. I used to read the paper every day at lunch. I don't eat lunch anymore. I used to not eat breakfast. If I eat 3 meals a day, I balloon up. my weight stays constant by eating 2 meals a day. And breakfast is the most important meal of the day, or so people say. So I switched to doing that. I'll probably switch back again at some point. I was not hungry at dinner at all. I was kind of hungry in the morning. So now I eat breakfast and I'm hungry again by dinner time. So again, I used to read the paper consistently every day at lunch, and now it's a little bit less consistent because I'm not eating lunch. And so I get a little bit behind. However, I always read the comics when I can. I have noticed something in the comics that just caught my eye, and I don't know if this is going to make any sense to you or if it's going to be interesting to you, or if you've maybe noticed it yourself, or maybe you'll think back when I tell you what it is. I mentioned this in a previous program briefly. A weird thing happens in the comics where one strip will have something in it that is the same as something in another strip, something unusual. Now, as we approach a holiday, multiple strips will have the theme of the holiday. So that doesn't count. It would be things that they're just random and things you would not expect that the writers of those strips would have come up with the same random thing on the same day. And more often than you'd expect, in adjacent strips that are one on top of each other in the paper. So I got a couple of examples from that for over the past few weeks. Beetle Bailey, and this is from March 3rd, it looks like. Beetle Bailey and the Wizard of Id sit on top of each other in the News and Observer, one over the other, and they're both golf. And this is in March. March isn't really a golf thing, but they both have a golf theme. It's, different stories, but both have a golf theme. And on June 28th, F- had the the death thing, the skull with the hoodie. What do they call that? Oh, the Grim Reaper. So F- had the Grim Reaper. Now these weren't adjacent or side by side, but they were in the same day. Bizarro had the Grim Reaper, and the joke in Bizarro was the Grim Reaper is sitting on a platform cleaning a window of like a skyscraper, and they're calling him the Grime Reaper. But it's still the skull and the black hoodie. So, it's same day. Why did those both have a Grim Reaper in it? Did they collude? Was it comic collusion, not just comic convergence? I don't know. There's another one where it's got a theme element in two comics that are right on top of each other. The Duplex has Meatloaf. And Scary Gary, which is, of course, one of my favorite comics because Gary has got Meatloaf. Different jokes, different humor, different point, but they both mention Meatloaf. Why would one comic and another comic both have a Meatloaf theme on the same day, side by side? Comic collusion, convergence. Mother Goose and Grimm. Also, these two aren't adjacent to each other, but they're in the same day. And they mention the phrase palate cleanser. Mother Goose and Grimm, palate cleanser. Big Nate, fairly new comic in the News and Observer. Palate cleanser. What a random thing. Why would two comics come up with the thing palate cleanser in the same day? Weird. These are all fairly recent. Red and Rover. We got Red been in the pool with his dog. They get out for lunch, and he is covered in shedded dog fur. So we've got pet animal shedding fur in Red and Rover. These are not side by side, not one on top of each other, but in the same day. In Mutts, there is the cat shedding all of his fur. Okay, so in the Red and Rover, the dog, I guess that must be Rover, has shed most of his fur. In Mutz, the cat has shed most of its fur. And then finally, another Red and Rover, and this one is right on top of a family circus. And they're in Red and Rover, they're looking up at the sky, and they see a flock of birds. And in Family Circus, which I don't read as a comic because it's just kind of too bland, but they're looking up at the sky, and there's a flock of birds, and there's also an airplane. People can fly like birds, but they make a lot more noise doing it. That's why I don't read Family Circus on a regular basis. The Dennis the Menace you're looking at has nothing to do with it. Just happens to occupy that same space. So, is that it? No, there's one more. Mutz. Can I see the date? Yeah, this is July 13th, just a few days ago. The Mutz comic, not physically adjacent, but the same day. The Mutz comic has a psychic. Wumo, the newest comic in the News and Observer, has a psychic. Why? What all those comics fairly recently have the same theme, the same day. I submit to you that is a weird thing. And something that has caught my attention. Has it caught yours? Well, it will from now on. If you read the paper, which you don't, because nobody does anymore. That is it for this episode of the Triangle Talk Show citizenship test. How did you do? I'm still a citizen. The two random tests, I scored 8. You can pass if you score 6. That's not a high bar. Episode 64, a civics test. It is July 21st, 2019. Cindy hasn't quite got dinner ready, but we're getting close. We had a good brunch today. We went to Briggs, got the omelet. Cindy gets the what they call the beast, lots of meat. I get the one that's got some vegetables in it. The works. It was delicious. This episode of the Triangle Talk Show is brought to you by Briggs. And I am Gary Pierce. I am your citizen. Watch. Oh, are we done? Get over here so I can turn off the YouTube. Look back at the... I have to get my cursor sitting over a specific spot here on the screen. That's why I got to look over there and get that. There's no single button I can push that would make this happen. So I can get that ready and then try not to move the mouse too much. Look in the camera and say, over and out.